She stood in front of him, in armor glowing like fire, eyes sharp as blades, lips curling into a dangerous smile. And she said, "What do I have to do to marry you, human?" He thought it was a joke, until the royal guards bowed behind her, until the galaxy watched in silence, until he realized this wasn't about love. This was about survival, and maybe something even darker. But why him? Why now? And what happens if he says no? Welcome to a new story from the dark corners of deep space. I'm Michael, your narrator and voiceover artist for this channel. Let's begin. She wasn't supposed to fall in love with him. Not with a human. Not with a species her people once hunted like animals. But there she stood, in the middle of a star-forged war council, armor shining like molten gold, eyes burning like twin suns, and she whispered, "What do I have to do to marry you?" He didn't move. He didn't blink, because deep down, he knew. This wasn't a proposal. It was a warning, a test, and maybe a trap. You're about to see what happens when a powerful alien woman falls for a human man, and the whole galaxy tries to stop her. But first, let's go back to where it all began. She was known as the Scrap Dump Girl. Not a queen, not a soldier, just another Vereen worker, trapped in a forgotten corner of the Empire. She lived on Orvax 7, a trash world made of broken ships and dead machines. Every morning, she walked across fields of sharp metal and rusted war engines. She collected scrap, sorted it, melted it, sold it for energy credits. Her name was Gyra, and she was nothing until the war came. It started with a human escape ship crashing near her station. Most Vereen ignored it. They hated humans. Weak, dirty, unworthy. But Gyra was curious. She had heard stories that humans were different, that they were unpredictable, wild, and impossible to control. When she found the wreckage, she expected a dead body. But he was alive, badly injured, barely breathing, but alive. He didn't beg. He didn't cry. He looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Don't help me unless you plan to finish the job." That was the first time Gyra felt something strange inside her. Not fear. Not hate. Respect. She didn't report him. She didn't turn him in. She hid him in the old reactor chamber, deep underground, where no scanners could find him. Every day after work, she brought him food, supplies, and stories. Stories about Earth, about music, about laughter, about things the Vereen had long forgotten. He never told her his name. He only said, "Call me Leo." And slowly, day by day, she changed. She started asking questions. Why were humans hunted? Why did the Empire fear them? Leo didn't answer. He only smiled. "Because we don't follow the rules," he said. Gyra started having dreams. Dreams of running, not marching. Of laughing, not commanding. Of touching, not killing. The Vereen noticed. They tested her, scanned her brain, made her fight in combat pits to prove her loyalty. She passed. But inside, something was breaking. Leo was healing. Stronger now. Faster. Sharper. He taught her how to fight like a human. Not with brute force, but with heart. Humans fight for what they love, he told her. Vereen fight for control. She didn't know what love meant, until the day she saw him smile after saving a young worker from a collapsing tower. That's when she realized she would do anything to keep him alive. One night, while hiding from patrol drones, they lay close in silence. He whispered, "One day, I'm leaving this place." And she whispered back, "Then take me with you." But the Empire had other plans. Someone had seen her near the wreck. She was summoned by the High Vereen Council, accused of traitor thoughts, exposed to Leo's human infection. Instead of running, she walked into the chamber in full battle armor, stood before the generals, and shocked the Empire. "I demand permission," she said, "to claim the human as my life mate." The chamber exploded with rage. "You dare ask for marriage with a human?" they shouted. She didn't flinch. She looked into the eyes of her commanders, and then calmly said, "You're all afraid of him. I'm not." That was the day. Gyra, the scrap dump girl, became Gyra, the human-claiming warlord. And her journey had just begun. She was no longer just a worker now. Not after what she said in front of the Varine Council. Not after she claimed a human in front of warriors who believed love was weakness. But Gyra didn't care, because for the first time in her life, she felt free. Free from orders, free from fear, free to want something more than survival. And what she wanted was him. Leo was still hiding underground. He didn't know what she had done. Didn't know she had challenged the oldest law in Varine history. No Varine shall ever bond with a human. But the word spread like fire. Some called her broken, infected. Others called her brave. But Gyra didn't listen. She only cared about one thing now: how to make Leo say yes. She returned to the chamber where he was resting. He stood up slowly, healed, but not fully. His eyes studied her new armor. She looked stronger, sharper, but also sad. "You've changed," he said. She nodded. "I challenged my people. For you." Leo blinked. "Why?" She didn't smile. "Because I want you to be mine." Leo stepped back. "You don't even know what love means." Gyra's face turned hard. "Then teach me." For the next cycle, she stayed by his side. But this time, not as a protector, as a student. She asked about Earth, about music, families, fireflies, oceans. She laughed at his strange jokes. She touched his hand in secret. And she felt alive. But not everyone was happy. The Varine Senate sent watchers. One of them, her old commander, Tarek Valbros, watched her from the shadows. "She's fallen," he whispered to his team. "She's not one of us anymore." They made a plan. Leo must die. Gyra felt the danger. Her instincts were loud now. Stronger since she met him. She told Leo to run. But he refused. "I'm tired of hiding," he said. "Let them come." And they did. 10 elite Varine assassins. Fast, silent, deadly. But Leo had learned it too. He fought beside Gyra. Not like a soldier, but like a human. Unpredictable. Wild. Free. When the last assassin fell, Gyra was bleeding. She dropped to her knees. Leo caught her. Her breathing slowed. "Now do you see why I chose you?" she whispered. "Because no Varine ever fought for me like this." Leo looked at her, truly looked. And something in him shifted. The next morning, under the twin suns of Orcs 7, he walked with her to the highest tower. And said, "You want to marry me? Then tell me the truth. What are you really afraid of?" She didn't answer at first. Then, quietly, "I'm afraid of losing myself. And finding something better." He smiled. "Then don't lose it. Grow it." But even as they stood together, something darker watched from the stars. The swarm. A force that fed on emotion. On chaos. On fear. It had tasted Leo before. And now, it wanted more. Far beyond the Orvac system. Past dead suns and broken moons. A shadow moved through space. It didn't use ships. It didn't need engines. It was alive. And hungry. The swarm. A massive, mind-breaking force. Built from dust, metal, screams, and fear. It had no face. No leader. No mercy. It only had one purpose. To consume all emotion and silence all thought. Once, it tried to take Earth. But it failed. Because humans, they were different. They screamed louder. Fought harder. And when broken, they got back up. It remembered Leo. The human who resisted its touch. The one who stayed human, even inside its nightmare. Now, it had found him again. Not alone. But with her. The one who glowed like fire. Gyra. Back on Orvac 7, Leo was trying to fix a damaged drone when he felt it. A deep, sharp pressure in his skull. He dropped his tools. Grabbed his head. Gyra ran to him. "What's wrong?" "They found me," Leo whispered. "The thing. I thought I escaped." "What thing?" "The thing that talks without words, eats without mouth." He looked up. His eyes were filled with fear. "The swarm is coming." Gyra didn't know what the swarm was, but she knew fear. And this wasn't normal fear. This was ancient, old as the stars. She sent a pulse signal to her old command, a silent alert that only high generals could decode. But instead of help, she received a warning. "If you are infected, you will be erased. Do not return." She was now marked as a danger, not just to the Empire, but to the galaxy. That night, Leo sat beside her under the jump tower. "They don't trust you anymore." She nodded. "They never did." He reached out, took her hand. "Then let's find someone who will." They left Orvax 7, stole an old Vereen cruiser, flew toward neutral space. And every step of the way, they felt it. The cold, the quiet, the creeping shadow behind the stars. The swarm was hunting. They stopped at a dead station on RYN Axis, an abandoned research hub once used to study alien minds. Leo thought they'd find help. Instead, they found records, footage, notes, files. They tried to use the swarm as a weapon, Leo said, but it didn't stay in the box. Gyra's face was pale. This was our project. Your people built it." "No," she whispered. "We opened the door." Suddenly, alarms screamed. The station lights went red. The walls bent. The air changed. The swarm had arrived. Leo grabbed Gyra, but her eyes, her body, froze. "Gyra," he shouted. She wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing. The swarm was inside her. Leo had one chance. He activated a neural spike, a painful human tech banned by most worlds. He pressed it against her neck. "BZZZT." She gasped, screamed, then blinked. Alive. She fell into his arms. "You saved me." He held her tight. "Now we save everyone else." But they were out of time. The swarm knew their faces, knew their bond. And worse, it wanted their love. Because human love was the loudest emotion in the galaxy. And the swarm fed on sound. Gyra had never felt weak before. But now, she couldn't trust her own mind. She heard whispers when she slept, saw shadows moving when the lights were off. And sometimes, she heard her own voice, saying things she didn't remember. Leo noticed. She would wake up sweating, shaking, eyes glowing faint green for a few seconds, then back to normal. "It's not you," he said, gently. "They're trying to make you one of them." "I won't let them," she replied. But deep down, she wasn't sure. They landed on a moon called Kalir 9. A quiet place. Hidden. Cold. Safe, for now. Here, Leo trained her. Not how to fight with her body, but how to fight with her mind. "Human minds aren't strong because they are hard," he said. "They're strong because they break and rebuild." Gyra learned to laugh again, to sit still, to breathe, and for the first time in her life, to cry. But the swarm was patient. It didn't need to rush. It waited until her walls were down, until she was at peace. And then, it whispered again. "He will leave you. He is using you. Humans lie." She screamed, clawed at her head. Leo ran to her, held her tight. "You're stronger than them," he said. "You're not alone." She looked into his eyes, and saw something she didn't understand. Something no one had ever given her before. Trust. She made a choice. No more running. No more hiding. They would go to the Vereen High World. She would stand before the Empress herself, and reveal the truth. That the swarm was here. That it could corrupt anyone. Even her. "If I have to burn every rule to save this galaxy, I will," Gyra said. Leo placed his hand on hers. "You don't have to do it alone." The journey was long. The stars they passed felt colder. Ships moved silently through space. like sharks waiting in the dark. And every time they jumped systems, they heard more stories. Stations going silent, colonies disappearing, people acting strange. The swarm was spreading fast, and no one believed it. When they arrived at Vereen Prime, the sky was red with warning signals. But Gyra didn't flinch. She walked into the palace like a queen, even though her name was now cursed. The guards raised weapons. She stared them down. "Take me to the Empress." Inside the Golden Hall, the Empress sat like a statue. Tall, silent, cold. Gyra bowed once. "I have come to break the chain." The room laughed. "You are broken," one general said. "Infected." "Then listen to the broken one last time," she replied. She showed them footage of the swarm, Leo's resistance, the dead colonies, her own infection, and finally, her own survival. "It can be fought," she said, "but not with weapons, with will." The Empress stared for a long moment. Then, she spoke. "You want to teach the Vereen human will?" "No," Gyra said. "I want to teach the galaxy." But not everyone agreed. Across the chamber, Tarek Valgros stepped forward. The old commander. The one who hated Leo. "She is lying," he shouted. "The human has corrupted her." He raised his weapon, pointed it at Leo. "Let me erase the infection." Gyra moved like lightning. Sword drawn. Tip pressed against Tarek's throat. "Touch him, and I break the chain with your blood." The Empress stood. "Enough." The room went silent. "We will give her one chance," she said. "If she fails, the human dies." Gyra nodded once. "Then I will not fail." But outside the palace, in the darkness between stars, the swarm was waiting, and it had learned a terrible truth. It no longer needed to infect her. It only needed to infect him. It started with a dream. Leo stood in a field of ash. The sky above him, dark and bleeding stars. Gyra called his name, but her voice sounded like echoes underwater. He turned to run toward her, but the ground melted, and something crawled up from beneath the soil. A hand made of voices. "You are the key," it whispered. "You resist, so we want you." He woke up gasping. Sweat soaked his clothes. His heart slammed in his chest like a war drum. Gyra rushed to his side. "What did you see?" "Nothing," he lied. But he knew the truth. The swarm had found a new target. The infection wasn't just for aliens anymore. It wanted him. Because Leo was different. He felt emotions harder. He held memories tighter. He remembered every screen, every face, every soul he failed to save. And the swarm fed on all of it. At first, it was just whispers. Soft sounds in his head when no one was around. Then came the flickers. He'd see things that weren't there. A hand on his shoulder. A voice calling his name. Gyra's face, but twisted, broken. He tried to hide it. Tried to stay strong. But Gyra noticed. "You're slipping," she said. "No. I'm just tired. Don't lie to me." He looked away. Because he was afraid. Afraid that if she saw how dark his thoughts had become, she'd be forced to do what no one else could. The Empress called for a trial. A test of truth. Gyra and Leo would enter the Mind Core. A forbidden relic used to test loyalty. It showed your deepest thoughts. Your hidden truths. And if you were infected, you didn't come back. They entered the chamber together. Hand in hand. The door sealed behind them with a thunderous slam. And then, silence. A soft white mist surrounded them. Suddenly, they were alone. Separated. Leo stood in a memory. Earth. A battlefield. Screams, smoke, blood. His old squad. Dead. All of them. He looked down. His hands were covered in their blood. "You did this," a voice said. He turned. It was himself. Same face. Same voice. But smiling. "Wrong. You keep people close just long enough to watch them die," the voice said. "You'll do the same to her." Leo tried to run, but the mist dragged him down. The swarm's voice was louder now. Let go, Leo. Give her up. Be free. Across the chamber, Gyra was in her own nightmare. A throne room. She stood alone. The Empress dead at her feet. Her people burned behind her. And Leo, standing at the exit. You chose me over them, he said. Now you have no one. That's not true, she shouted. Then why are you alone? The room darkened. The swarm's voice crept in. He will leave you. They all do. No. You are Vereen. You were made to conquer, not love. No. She dropped to her knees. And then, a hand touched hers. Leo. I'm still here, he said. So am I, she whispered. And the mist cracked. Together, they stood back to back. The chamber screamed. Flashes of their fears swirled around them. But they didn't move. Didn't give in. They remembered each other's faces. Each other's voices. Each other's strength. And the swarm fell silent. When the doors opened, the Emperor stood watching. Everyone waited. Gyra walked out. Then Leo. Breathing. Whole. Unaffected. You passed, the Empress said. No, Leo replied. We survived. Isn't that the same thing? Not yet. Because Leo knew. This wasn't over. The swarm wasn't done. It had seen what made them strong. Now it would evolve. And next time, it wouldn't just whisper. It would speak. The galaxy didn't sleep that night. Somewhere between the orbit of Vereen Prime and the red moons of Zenthil, communications began to fail. One by one, stations went dark. Satellites turned to ash. Entire planets fell silent. It wasn't a war. It was a warning. And it came with a sound. A low, vibrating hum. That infected every system. Every brain. Every heart. Leo was the first to hear it. Not through machines. But in his own head. A whisper turned into a voice. And the voice spoke. Human, you are awake. He froze. Gyra was beside him, loading supplies into the Star Cruiser. She didn't hear it. Only he could. You resist. But you are not alone anymore. What do you want? Leo whispered. To end your kind's pain. By destroying us. No, by joining us. Gyra turned. Did you say something? No, Leo said quickly. Let's keep moving. But the voice didn't stop. It returned every time he blinked. Every time he breathed. Calm. Confident. Inevitable. That night, the Empress summoned them to the core tower. She had something to show them. Something she hadn't revealed to anyone. A message. From the outer edge of the Arcane Void, the last place a Vereen fleet had vanished. She played the signal. A voice came through. Broken, twisted, but unmistakably human. This is Commander Jules of the Earth Union ship Fury Echo. We made contact. They don't destroy. They become. Then silence. And then another voice. Deeper. Louder. Ancient. We watched your war. Your love. Your sorrow. You build walls, but your heart stay open. We do not want conquest. We want entry. Gyra's claws dug into the table. They're learning to speak. Leo nodded slowly. No, they're learning to lie. The Empress paced. They used to scream. Now they negotiate. What do we do? Gyra asked. We send a message of our own. What kind? A loud one. That was how the plan was born. Operation Iron Pulse. A deep space beacon rigged with a memory core of human and Vereen emotions. Joy. Grief. Anger. Passion. Loyalty. Love. They would launch it into the swarm field. A shockwave of pure feeling. The kind humans and Vereen shared. But no other species could survive. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a challenge. Leo prepared the beacon with his old Earth code. Gyra programmed the Vereen energy signature. Together, they loaded it onto a stealth cruiser and flew straight into darkness. The further they went, the colder the stars became. All color faded. No planets. No stations. Just silence. Until a shape appeared. Not solid. Not one thing. Everything. A living storm. Moving. Watching. Breathing. The swarm. Suddenly, the ship stopped. Not by force. By will. The swarm had reached into the ship's systems and held it still. The lights flickered. The voice returned. You bring the beacon. You bring pain. You bring silence, Leo said. We bring the answer. You love. So you suffer. Better to suffer than to forget. Gyra pressed the final key. The beacon began to glow. The swarm's voice cracked. If you release it, you die with us. Leo looked at Gyra. She looked at him. No fear. Just fire. Then we go loud, she said. And pressed the trigger. The beacon exploded in a wave of light and sound. Every emotion they had ever felt. All of it. Released at once. The stars shook. The darkness screamed. And for the first time, the swarm went silent. Back on Vereen Prime. All systems restored. Every signal returned. And somewhere in the center of the galaxy, a single, final message echoed from the void. We remember you. Silence. That was the first thing they heard after the blast. Not death. Not victory. Just silence. Leo and Gyra floated in the dark. The cruiser's systems fried. Life support flickering. Oxygen low. But they were alive. Barely. Leo turned to her. Did we win? Gyra smiled softly, weak but still fierce. No. We were heard. Across the galaxy, the swarm had stopped moving. Ships once lost in space reappeared. Signals long dead returned. Entire colonies, silent for years, turned their lights back on. The stars were brighter again. Not because the swarm was destroyed, but because it had changed. Back on Vereen Prime, the Empress watched from the throne. Behind her, crowds of Vereen warriors stood in awe. News of Leo and Gyra's beacon had spread faster than light. Two beings had done what empires couldn't. They made the swarm feel. 3 days later, a damaged cruiser limped into orbit. Burnt. Bent. Barely holding together. But inside, they were still breathing. Gyra walked out first. Scarred. Silent. Beautiful. Behind her, Leo. His human body weak, but his spine unshaken. They stood before the council once more. No guards dared raise their weapons. No generals shouted. The Empress stepped down from her throne and did something no one expected. She bowed. You have done what none of us could, she said. You brought light into the dark. Gyra looked at Leo, then back at the council. You tried to erase him, to silence love, to control hearts. But this human saved us all. Leo stepped forward. We didn't do it with force, or fear, or power. We did it with something your systems can't program. Choice. Later that night, under the silver moons of Vereen Prime, Gyra and Leo stood on the balcony of the palace. Stars stretched across the sky like endless stories waiting to be written. She turned to him. So, now that I saved the galaxy for you, will you marry me? Leo laughed. I thought I was supposed to ask. Your planet has strange customs, she teased. But I like this one. He took her hand. Then yes. I do. And somewhere, far away, in the quiet place where the swarm once lived, a whisper echoed through space. Soft, peaceful, human. Love received. The end.